The sound of silverware clinking against fine china filled the dining room of Le Sereno, one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants. Crystal chandeliers cast warm amber light across white tablecloths, and soft piano music drifted through the air like a forgotten promise. I sat across from Darren, my hands folded tightly in my lap, trying to make myself as small as possible. This was a mistake. I knew it the moment I agreed to meet him, but he had been so persistent, calling and texting for weeks, showing up at my school, leaving flowers on my doorstep with notes that read, "We need to talk," in his slanted handwriting. "You look beautiful tonight, Elena," Darren said, his voice smooth as honey to anyone listening nearby. But I heard the edge beneath it, sharp as broken glass. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It never did. "I've missed you so much. Don't you miss what we had?" I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to stand up and walk away, but my body remembered things my mind tried to forget. The bruises hidden under long sleeves, the late nights crying in the bathroom, the apologies that came with flowers and promises he never kept. Instead, I nodded slightly, my throat too tight to speak. "That's my girl," he murmured, leaning forward. To anyone watching, we looked like a couple rekindling their romance. No one could see his hand gripping my wrist under the table, his fingers pressing into the tender skin where old bruises had finally faded. "You know, I've been thinking about tonight, about what happens when we leave here." My pulse quickened. I knew that tone. It meant he was angry, that he'd been building up to something all evening. The pleasant facade he wore for the other diners was just that, a mask he'd perfected over the years we were together. "When we walk out of here," he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper only I could hear, "you're going to be covered in bruises for thinking you could just leave me, for daring to ignore my calls, for making me chase you like some pathetic fool." I swallowed hard, my eyes fixed on the untouched food before me. The scallops that had looked so appetizing when they arrived now seemed to mock me. My stomach churned. I wanted to scream, to call for help, but who would believe me? Darren was charming, successful, respected in his firm. I was just a quiet elementary school teacher who barely spoke above a whisper in public. "You're not going to say anything?" he asked, his smile widening as a waiter passed by our table. "That's good. That's very good, Elena. You're learning." I felt tears threatening but blinked them back. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry here, not in public. I'd learned that lesson too. Crying only made things worse. It fed something dark inside him, something that enjoyed my fear. That's when I noticed the man at the next table. He was sitting alone, a glass of whiskey in his hand, dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His dark hair was slicked back perfectly, and even from the side, I could see the sharp angles of his jaw, the expensive watch glinting on his wrist. He looked like he belonged in a magazine spread about wealth and power. But what struck me most was the stillness about him. While everyone else in the restaurant chatted and laughed, he sat in perfect silence, his attention seemingly focused on his drink. Except I caught the slight tilt of his head, the way his fingers had stopped moving on the glass stem, the tension that had suddenly appeared in his shoulders. He had heard what Darren said. I was sure of it. For a moment, our eyes met. His were dark, almost black in the dim light, and there was something in them I couldn't quite name. Not pity. God, I'd seen enough pity to last a lifetime. But something else. Something that made my breath catch. Then Darren's voice pulled me back. I need to use the restroom. Don't even think about leaving, Elena. You know I'll find you. I always do. He stood, squeezing my shoulder hard enough to make me wince, then walked away with that confident stride that once made me feel safe, but now only filled me with dread. I watched him disappear around the corner, and for a few precious seconds, I could breathe. That's when the man from the next table moved. He didn't rush. There was no urgency in his movements, just a deliberate grace that commanded attention without demanding it. He stood, and I realized he was tall, powerfully built beneath that expensive suit. He walked the few steps to my table and stood there, looking down at me with those intense dark eyes. "Forgive the intrusion," he said, his voice low and controlled, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. "But I couldn't help overhearing your companion. Are you here by choice?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. Who was this man? What did he want? Was this some kind of trick? He seemed to understand my hesitation. "My name is Adrian Moretti. I own several establishments in this city, and I make it a point to know when someone is being threatened in one of my restaurants." He paused, his eyes scanning my face. "I heard what he said to you, every word." My heart hammered in my chest. I don't. "You don't have to explain anything to me," Adrian said quietly. "I'm simply asking if you want to leave here safely, that's all. Just say yes or no." Something in his tone, in the way he asked without demanding, made me believe him. In all the months with Darren, no one had ever asked me what I wanted. They'd told me I should leave, that I deserved better, but no one had actually offered to help me do it. Not like this. "Yes," I whispered. "Please." Adrian nodded once, as if that settled everything. He pulled out his phone and typed something quickly, then slipped it back into his pocket. "2 of my men are at the entrance. When your ex returns, they'll prevent him from approaching you. You'll walk out with me. Do you have somewhere safe to go tonight?" My apartment. He knows where you live." It wasn't a question. "You'll stay somewhere else tonight. I'll arrange it." Before I could respond, Darren returned. The moment he saw Adrian standing by our table, his expression shifted. The mask slipped, revealing the anger beneath. "Who the hell are you?" Darren demanded, his voice rising slightly. Adrian turned to face him, and I watched something incredible happen. Darren, who had terrorized me for so long, actually took a step back. There was something in Adrian's posture, in the way he looked at Darren, that radiated danger more effectively than any threat could. "I'm the man who heard every word you said to this woman," Adrian replied calmly. "I know your name is Darren Mitchell. You work at Hammond & Associates law firm. You drive a silver Audi, license plate KLM 4892. You live at 2847 North Sheffield Avenue, apartment 6B. Your mother's name is Patricia, and she lives in Naperville. Should I continue?" Darren's face went pale. "How do you—" "It doesn't matter how I know," Adrian cut him off. "What matters is that you're going to walk out of this restaurant right now and never contact Elena again. Not a call, not a text, not a surprise visit. Nothing. Do you understand? You can't just—" 2 large men in black suits appeared at Darren's sides. They didn't touch him, didn't say anything, just stood there with the kind of presence that made their purpose clear. "I think you should leave," one of them said quietly. I watched Darren's eyes dart between the men, then to Adrian, then finally to me. For a moment, I saw something I'd never seen before in his expression. Fear. Real fear. "This isn't over," he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. "Oh, but it is," Adrian replied. "Gentlemen, escort Mr. Mitchell out. Make sure he understands the importance of keeping his distance." The 2 men walked Darren toward the exit. He went without resistance, throwing one last look over his shoulder at me. But this time, there was no threat in it. Only confusion, and something that looked almost like defeat. I sat there, shaking, unable to process what had just happened. In the span of minutes, everything had changed. The man who had controlled my life through fear had been reduced to nothing by someone who barely raised his voice. Adrian sat down in Darren's vacated chair, maintaining a respectful distance. "Are you all right?" I don't understand," I stammered. "Why did you help me? You don't even know me." His expression softened slightly. "I don't need to know you to know that what I heard was wrong. No one deserves to be threatened like that, especially not in my restaurant." "Your restaurant? You said you owned several establishments, but—" "Le Sereno is one of them," he confirmed. "But that's not important right now. What's important is making sure you're safe. Do you have family you can call? Friends?" I shook my head. Darren had isolated me so effectively over the past 2 years that my support system had dwindled to almost nothing. No. There's no one. Adrian studied me for a moment, and I had the unsettling feeling that he could see straight through me, understanding more than I'd said aloud. "Then we'll find you somewhere safe for tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. I can't afford—" "You're not paying for anything," he said firmly. "Consider it a service Le Sereno provides to its guests. Now, shall we?" He stood and offered his hand. I hesitated, looking at it. This was crazy. I didn't know this man. For all I knew, I was trading one dangerous situation for another. But something in my gut told me to trust him. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was the genuine concern I saw in his eyes, so different from the cold calculation I'd grown used to seeing in Darren's. I took his hand and stood. His grip was firm but gentle, and when he led me toward the exit, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. It was fragile and uncertain, like the first green shoot pushing through winter soil. But it was there. As we walked past the other diners, still enjoying their meals and oblivious to the drama that had unfolded, I realized that my life had just shifted on its axis. I didn't know if it was for better or worse yet, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Adrian Moretti had walked into my nightmare and offered me a way out. Now I just had to be brave enough to take it. The car that waited outside Le Sereno was nothing like I expected. I'd imagined something flashy, maybe a sports car or one of those ostentatious limousines that screamed money. Instead, it was a sleek black sedan with tinted windows, elegant but understated. The driver, another man in a dark suit, opened the back door without a word, his expression professionally neutral. Adrian gestured for me to enter first. I slid across the leather seat, my hands still trembling slightly. He followed, maintaining that careful distance between us, as if he understood that I needed space to process everything that had just happened. The door closed with a soft click that sounded final, like the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. "Marcus, take us to the Jefferson property," Adrian instructed the driver. Then turning to me, he added, "It's a secure building. The apartment is furnished and empty. You'll have privacy." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Through the window, I watched the Chicago streets slide by, the glittering storefronts, the people walking hand in hand, the life I'd been missing while trapped in Darren's web. It felt surreal, like I was watching a movie of someone else's escape rather than living my own. "You're probably wondering who I am," Adrian said after a few moments of silence. His voice was calm, almost conversational, as if we were discussing the weather rather than the fact that he'd just rescued me from my abusive ex-boyfriend. What I do, why I was able to get rid of him so easily. The thought crossed my mind, I admitted quietly. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I run a family business. We have interests in various sectors: restaurants, real estate, security, imports. Some of our methods are unconventional, but I've always believed in a code: protect those who can't protect themselves, especially women and children. He wasn't telling me everything. I could hear it in the careful way he chose his words, in what he left unsaid. But I also heard the truth in his voice. He did believe in protecting people. And right now, that was enough. "I don't have money to pay you back for any of this," I said, needing him to understand. I'm just a teacher. I barely make enough to cover my rent and student loans." "I told you, you're not paying for anything," Adrian replied firmly. "This isn't a debt, Elena. It's simply the right thing to do." The way he said my name, with a slight softening of his accent on the vowels, made something flutter in my chest. I pushed the feeling down. This wasn't the time for whatever that was. "How did you know all that information about Darren?" I asked. "You rattled off his address, his license plate, everything so quickly." Adrian pulled out his phone and showed me a text message. It was from someone labeled Marco, and contained every detail he'd recited to Darren, time-stamped just minutes after Adrian had excused himself from his table. "I have resources. When I saw you sitting there, saw the fear in your eyes, I had a feeling I might need information quickly. So I made a call." "That fast?" "That fast," he confirmed. "I employ people who are very good at finding information. It's part of how I protect my interests." The car pulled up to a beautiful high-rise in downtown Chicago. The Jefferson, according to the discreet golden letters above the entrance. The building was all glass and modern architecture, the kind of place I'd never imagined stepping foot in, let alone staying. Marcus opened the door, and Adrian exited first, then offered his hand to help me out. I took it, still feeling like I was in some kind of dream. We walked through automatic doors into a lobby that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. Marble floors, contemporary art on the walls, a massive floral arrangement on a center table that probably cost more than my monthly salary. The night concierge looked up from his desk, his eyes widening slightly when he saw Adrian. "Mr. Moretti, good evening." "David, the penthouse apartment is prepared?" "Yes, sir." "I'll have the keys brought right up." We took the elevator to the 23rd floor in silence. I caught our reflection in the mirrored walls. Adrian, composed and powerful in his tailored suit, and me, looking small and disheveled beside him despite my best dress. We were from completely different worlds, yet here we were, riding up to an apartment he owned because he'd decided to save me. The apartment was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights, the Chicago River a dark ribbon below. The furniture was modern and comfortable, all clean lines and neutral colors. A full kitchen, a spacious living room, and through an open door, I could see a bedroom with a massive bed covered in white linens. "The refrigerator is stocked with basics," Adrian said, walking to the kitchen and opening it to show me. "If you need anything else, there's a phone by the bed. Dial 0 and ask for anything you want. Food, supplies, whatever you need. It will be delivered." I stood in the middle of the living room, feeling overwhelmed. "This is too much. I can't." "You can and you will," he interrupted gently. "At least for tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out a more permanent solution." "I have to work tomorrow. I teach 2nd grade. The kids." "What time do you need to be there?" 8 o'clock. Adrian nodded. "Marcus will drive you. Just call down when you're ready to leave. And Elena?" He waited until I met his eyes. "If you're worried about Darren showing up at your school, don't be. I'll make sure someone is watching. Discreetly. You won't even know they're there. But they will be." The thought should have frightened me, this stranger arranging surveillance on my life. But instead, I felt relief. For the first time in months, I might actually sleep through the night without jumping at every sound. "Why are you doing all this?" I asked again. "Please, I need to understand." Adrian was quiet for a moment, his dark eyes distant, as if remembering something painful. "When I was young, my mother was in a situation similar to yours. My father, before he became the man who raised me, was not a good person. He hurt her, controlled her. She had nowhere to go, no one to help her." He paused, his jaw tightening. By the time someone finally intervened, she'd already endured years of suffering. I swore then that if I ever had the power to stop something like that, I would. So when I heard what that man said to you, when I saw the fear in your eyes, he shook his head. I couldn't look away. My throat tightened with unexpected emotion. I'm sorry about your mother. She's strong now, stronger than anyone I know, but those scars don't ever fully heal. He looked at me intently. You're strong too, Elena. You just don't see it yet, but you will. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was barely holding myself together. But something about the certainty in his voice made me want to believe him. Adrian moved toward the door. I should go. You need rest. But before I leave... He pulled a card from his wallet and placed it on the kitchen counter. My personal number. If you need anything, any time of day or night, you call me. Understood? I walked over and picked up the card. It was simple, just his name and a phone number embossed in black ink. Thank you, Adrian, for everything. I don't know how I'll ever... Don't thank me yet, he said with a slight smile. Just focus on getting through tonight. Everything else, we'll handle as it comes. After he left, I stood alone in the apartment, listening to the silence. It was different from the silence in my old place. Not oppressive or threatening, but peaceful. Safe. I walked to the windows and looked out at the city, at all those lights representing lives being lived. And for the first time in years, I felt like mine might actually be worth living again. I took a long shower, washing away the fear and tension of the evening. The bathroom was stocked with expensive toiletries, fluffy towels, everything I could possibly need. When I finally climbed into the bed, the sheets were soft as clouds, and despite everything that had happened, I felt myself drifting off almost immediately. My last thought before sleep claimed me was of Adrian's eyes, dark and intense, but somehow kind. He'd promised to keep me safe, and somehow, impossibly, I believed him. I dreamed of bruises fading, of doors opening, of walking through Chicago streets without looking over my shoulder. When I woke in the morning to sunlight streaming through those massive windows, I realized it was the first night in months that I hadn't had a nightmare. Maybe Adrian Moretti had given me more than just a safe place to sleep. Maybe he'd given me back something I thought I'd lost forever. The ability to hope. The morning sunlight transformed the apartment into something even more beautiful than it had seemed the night before. I woke slowly, confused at first by the unfamiliar surroundings, then remembered everything in a rush. Darren's threats, Adrian's intervention, this safe haven high above the city. For a moment I lay there, simply breathing, marveling at the fact that I'd slept through the entire night without waking in a panic. My phone, which I'd plugged in before falling asleep, showed 7 missed calls from Darren and a string of increasingly angry text messages. I deleted them without reading most of them, then blocked his number entirely. It was such a simple action, one I should have done months ago, but seeing his name on my screen still made my hands shake. I showered again, wanting to wash away even the thought of him, then realized I didn't have any clothes except what I'd worn last night. Before I could worry about it, there was a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman in professional attire holding several shopping bags. "Ms. Elena?" she called softly. "Mr. Moretti sent some things for you." I opened the door cautiously. The woman smiled warmly and brought the bags inside, setting them on the living room couch. "I'm Sarah, Mr. Moretti's personal assistant. He thought you might need some clothes and essentials. I took the liberty of choosing some basic items, comfortable professional pieces suitable for your work. If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, just let me know and I'll exchange them immediately." Inside the bags were several complete outfits: blouses, slacks, a cardigan, even undergarments and shoes, all in my size. There was also a bag with makeup, basic toiletries, and other necessities. Everything was thoughtful, practical, nothing extravagant or invasive. "How did he know my sizes?" I asked, bewildered. Sarah smiled. "Mr. Moretti is very observant, but if anything isn't quite right, we'll fix it." "This is too much. I can't accept all this." "It's already done," Sarah said kindly. "Mr. Moretti was very clear about making sure you had what you needed. He also wanted me to give you this." She handed me an envelope. "Your driver is downstairs whenever you're ready. Do you need anything else?" I shook my head, still overwhelmed. After Sarah left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a note in strong masculine handwriting. "Focus on your students today. Everything else is taken care of. A.M." I got dressed in one of the outfits, gray slacks and a soft blue blouse that actually fit perfectly. Looking at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked calm, put together, like someone who had her life under control. It was a strange feeling. Marcus was indeed waiting downstairs. The drive to Horace Mann Elementary School, where I taught, was quiet and efficient. As we pulled up to the front entrance, Marcus turned to me. "I'll be parked across the street. If you need anything, you have Mr. Moretti's number, but I'll also be right here." "This really isn't necessary," I protested weakly. "Mr. Moretti believes it is," Marcus replied simply. "And with respect, ma'am, after what I heard happened last night, I agree with him. My students were a welcome distraction. Their innocent enthusiasm, their questions and laughter, reminded me why I'd become a teacher in the first place. 7-year-olds don't care about your personal problems or your complicated life. They just want to know if they can have extra time at recess and whether you like the drawing they made of their cat." During my lunch break, I sat in my empty classroom, eating the sandwich I'd found packed in one of the bags Sarah had brought. My classroom was my sanctuary, the one place where I'd always felt competent and valued. The walls were covered with student artwork, alphabet charts, and motivational posters. On my desk sat a photo of my parents, who'd passed away in a car accident 5 years ago, before Darren, before everything fell apart. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "How is your day going? Adrian." I stared at it, unsure how to respond. Finally, I typed, "Good. Thank you for everything this morning. It was too much, but I'm grateful." His response came quickly. "Not too much. Just enough. Are you comfortable?" "Yes. My driver is very professional. Marcus is one of my most trusted people. You're safe with him. A.M." I found myself smiling at the way he signed his texts, formal even in this casual medium. Before I could overthink it, I typed, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything. What do you get out of this? I know you said it's the right thing to do, but there has to be more to it." The response took longer this time. Honestly, I don't know. When I heard him threaten you, something in me just decided. Maybe it's because I've seen too much cruelty in my life, and I'm tired of looking away. Or maybe it's because when you looked at me last night, I saw someone who deserved better than what she was getting. Does that answer your question? I think so. Thank you for being honest. I'll always be honest with you, Elena. That's a promise. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. When the final bell rang and my students scattered, I found myself reluctant to leave the safety of my classroom. But Marcus was waiting, patient and professional, and I knew I couldn't hide here forever. On the drive back to the apartment, I made a decision. "Marcus, can you take me to my old apartment first? I need to get some of my things." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Mr. Moretti would want me to check with him first, ma'am." "Please, it's my apartment, my things. I can't just abandon my whole life. I need clothes, my books, my life is in that apartment." Marcus was quiet for a moment, then pulled over and made a call. I couldn't hear what he said, but after a brief conversation, he nodded. Mr. Moretti says I'm to accompany you inside and that we don't linger. He's sending additional support as backup. By the time we reached my building, a modest 3-story walk-up in a decent but unremarkable neighborhood, another car was already there. 2 more men in dark suits got out, and I realized this was what Adrian's world looked like. Protection, security, people trained to handle threats I'd never even considered before Darren. My apartment felt foreign now, though I'd lived there for 3 years. It seemed smaller, darker, filled with memories I wanted to forget. The men stayed by the door while I quickly gathered clothes, books, my laptop, and a few sentimental items. My mother's jewelry, photos, my favorite coffee mug that my students had decorated as a gift. I was packing the last of my things when I heard voices in the hallway. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. Darren. I told you, I'm her boyfriend. She probably just left her keys inside. If you'd just let me... Sir, you need to leave. Now. That was Marcus, his voice hard and unyielding. Who the hell are you? Elena! Elena, I know you're in there. We need to talk. I froze, my hands clutching a sweater I'd been folding. The other 2 men had moved into position, blocking the doorway. Marcus spoke again, louder now. Mr. Mitchell, you were warned to stay away. You're violating that warning. Violating? You can't legally keep me from seeing my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, I called out, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. And you need to leave, Darren. Right now. There was a moment of silence. Then Darren's voice changed, became the wheedling tone I knew too well. Baby, please, I just want to talk. I'm sorry about last night. I had too much to drink. You know I didn't mean those things. Yes, you did. I walked to the doorway, standing behind Marcus but visible. You meant every word. And I'm done, Darren. We're done. Don't call me, don't text me. Don't come to my school or my home. If you do, I'll get a restraining order. His expression darkened. You think you can just walk away? You think some hired muscle is going to protect you forever? I know people too, Elena. I'm a lawyer. I can make your life hell. Actually, a new voice said from down the hallway, I think you'll find that's not possible. Adrian appeared, walking toward us with that same controlled grace I'd seen at the restaurant. He was dressed more casually today, dark jeans and a black button-down, but he still carried that aura of authority. Mr. Mitchell, we meet again. I thought I made myself clear last night. You have no right. I have every right. Adrian cut him off coldly. See, after our conversation yesterday, I had my people look into you more thoroughly. Turns out you have quite an interesting history. 3 previous girlfriends with similar stories. Police reports that were mysteriously dropped. A sealed juvenile record that's not quite as sealed as you think. Darren's face went pale. You can't... I can, and I have. I've compiled quite a file. I've also had a very interesting conversation with a partner at your firm about your behavior toward female colleagues. Apparently there have been complaints. Confidential complaints, but again, not as confidential as you might hope. Adrian moved closer, and I saw Darren actually back away. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to forget Elena exists. You're going to delete her number, forget her address, and never speak her name again. If I hear you've so much as driven past her school, I'll make sure that file lands on every desk at Hammond & Associates, with copies sent to the State Bar Association. This is blackmail. No, Adrian said quietly. This is protection. There's a difference. Now leave. My patience is not infinite. The 2 men moved forward, and Darren finally seemed to understand that he was outmatched. He looked at me one last time, and I saw something in his expression that chilled me. Not love, not even anger, but a cold possessiveness, like I was a toy someone had taken from him. This isn't over, he muttered. Yes, Adrian said, his voice like ice. It is. After Darren left, escorted down the stairs by the two men, I realized I was shaking. Marcus had already gone back to checking my apartment. Adrian approached slowly, carefully, reading my body language. Are you all right? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. I was so scared when I heard his voice. But you spoke up. You told him you were done. That took courage. It took knowing you were nearby, I corrected. I wouldn't have had the strength otherwise. You have more strength than you think. You just needed someone to remind you. He glanced at the boxes Marcus had started carrying down. Let's get you back to the Jefferson. You've had enough stress for one day. As we drove away from my old apartment, I watched it disappear in the side mirror and felt an unexpected sense of relief. That place, those memories, that life, I was leaving it all behind. It should have felt scary, this plunge into the unknown. Instead, it felt like freedom. Over the next 2 weeks, a strange new routine emerged. I went to work each day, Marcus driving me there and back. I stayed in the beautiful apartment overlooking the city. And slowly, carefully, Adrian Moretti began appearing in my life in ways I hadn't expected. It started small. He texted to check how my day went. He sent lunch to my classroom when he learned I usually skipped it, because I was too busy with students. When I mentioned missing my favorite coffee from a shop near my old apartment, I found a bag of their beans waiting in the kitchen the next morning. But he never pushed, never demanded my time or attention. He simply existed at the periphery, a constant presence that somehow made me feel safer than I'd felt in years. One evening, about 10 days after the restaurant incident, there was a knock at the apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw Adrian holding what looked like takeout bags and a bottle of wine. I hope I'm not intruding, he said when I opened the door. I thought you might be tired of eating alone. I should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries with this man who'd disrupted my entire life. Instead, I found myself stepping aside to let him in. I didn't know what you liked, so I brought options, he said, setting the bags on the kitchen counter. Italian from Rosario's, Thai from Golden Lotus, and sushi from Yuki if you prefer something lighter. You brought enough food for 10 people, I observed, unable to hide my smile. I wanted to make sure you had choices. You've had so little choice lately. He said it casually, but I heard the weight behind the words. He understood more than I'd realized. We ended up eating the Thai food, pad Thai and green curry that tasted like heaven, sitting at the dining table with the city lights twinkling below us. Adrian asked about my students, and I found myself telling stories I hadn't shared with anyone in months. About Emma, who couldn't sit still, but had the kindest heart. About Marcus, coincidentally, sharing a name with my driver, who struggled with reading but never gave up. About the whole beautiful, chaotic world of second graders who still believed adults could fix anything. You love them, Adrian observed. I do. They're the reason I kept going when things were bad. I couldn't let them down, even if I was letting myself down. You weren't letting yourself down, Elena. You were surviving. There's a difference. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in his family, about the weight of expectations and the price of power. I told him about losing my parents, about the loneliness that had made me vulnerable to someone like Darren in the first place. I thought he was saving me, I admitted. I was alone, grieving, struggling with bills and just existing. He seemed so stable, so together. I thought I was lucky that he noticed me. He was the lucky one, Adrian said quietly, and he was too stupid to realize it. Something in his tone made me look up from my wine glass. He was watching me with an intensity that should have frightened me but didn't. His dark eyes held something I couldn't quite name. Admiration, maybe, or something deeper. "Adrian," I started, not sure what I was going to say. "I should go," he said, standing abruptly. "It's late. You need rest." "You don't have to." "I do." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Elena, I need you to know something. I'm not doing any of this because I expect anything from you. I'm not trying to replace what you had with someone better or insert myself into your life in some possessive way. I want you to have the space to figure out who you are without fear. That's all." After he left, I sat in the quiet apartment, thinking about his words. The thing was, I was starting to realize that Adrian Moretti, dangerous man, powerful boss, protector of those who couldn't protect themselves, was becoming more than just my benefactor. He was becoming something I hadn't expected. A friend. The next few weeks followed a similar pattern. Adrian would visit occasionally, always bringing food, always respectful of my space. We'd talk for hours, and I began to see beyond the intimidating exterior to the man beneath. He was intelligent, surprisingly funny, and carried a sadness that mirrored my own. One Saturday, he invited me to go for a walk along the Chicago River. I'd been cooped up in the apartment and at school for weeks, and the idea of fresh air and sunshine was irresistible. "I should tell you something," Adrian said as we walked along the path, watching boats drift by. "I've been looking into the process of getting you a new apartment. Something in your name, in a secure building. I know you can't stay at the Jefferson forever." My heart sank. Of course he was right. This arrangement couldn't be permanent. "I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't afford..." "The building I'm thinking of has rent-controlled units for teachers. It's actually within your budget. I just happen to own the building, which means I can expedite the application process and ensure you get a unit on a higher floor with good security." "You own apartment buildings for teachers?" "I own many apartment buildings. Some of them happen to be affordable. It's good business, stable tenants, steady income. But in this case, yes, I'm using my ownership to help you. Is that all right?" I thought about it. It wasn't charity if I was paying fair rent. And I did need a place of my own. Something that was mine. "Yes, thank you." We walked in comfortable silence for a while. The sun was warm on my face, and for the first time in months, I felt like a normal person doing normal things. Not a victim, not a charity case, just a woman taking a walk on a beautiful day. "Can I ask you something personal?" I ventured. "Always." "Are you married? Do you have someone?" Adrian was quiet for a moment. "I was married once, a long time ago. It didn't work out. She wanted a different life than the one I could give her. No children. No current romantic entanglements. My work doesn't leave much room for relationships." "That sounds lonely." "It is," he admitted. "But it's safer. For everyone involved." I understood what he meant. A man in his position, with his resources and his enemies, because I knew now that he must have enemies, couldn't afford normal relationships. The people close to him would always be in danger. "What about you?" he asked. "Before Darren, was there anyone?" "A boyfriend in college. It ended amicably when we realized we wanted different things. He wanted to travel the world. I wanted to teach and have roots. We're still friends on social media, in that distant way where you like each other's posts, but never really talk. And after all this, what do you want now?" I thought about his question seriously. "I want to feel safe in my own skin. I want to go to work without looking over my shoulder. I want to come home to a place that's mine and not feel afraid. I want to remember who I was before Darren and figure out who I can be after him." "You'll get all of that," Adrian said with certainty. "I'll make sure of it. You can't protect me forever, No, he agreed. But I can protect you long enough for you to learn to protect yourself. A month after that night at Le Sereno, I moved into my new apartment. It wasn't as luxurious as the Jefferson penthouse, but it was perfect. A one-bedroom unit on the 8th floor of a well-maintained building in a safe neighborhood. I could afford the rent. I had a doorman, and the windows had actual locks that worked. It was mine. Adrian helped me move in, along with Marcus and Sarah. They brought furniture I'd selected, helped me arrange everything, and by evening, it looked like a real home. My books on the shelves, my mother's paintings on the walls, my favorite coffee mug in the kitchen cabinet. It's perfect, I said, looking around at my new space. It's a good start, Adrian replied. He stood by the window, looking out at the neighborhood. The school is only 15 minutes away. There's a grocery store 2 blocks down, a park 3 blocks over. The building has good security, and I have people in the area, though you won't notice them. Adrian, I need to be able to live my life without... I know. He cut me off gently. And you will. But give me a few more months, just until I'm sure he's really gone. Darren had been silent since that day at my old apartment. No calls, no texts, no surprise appearances. Either Adrian's threat had worked, or Darren was biding his time. Either way, I wasn't taking chances. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my new living room and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. This apartment, this space, this life I was slowly rebuilding. It was mine. I'd survived, and now I was beginning to thrive. My phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. Sleep well in your new home. You've earned it. I smiled and replied, Thank you. For everything. I mean it. The pleasure is mine. Seeing you smile today, it was worth every effort. I stared at that message for a long time, my heart doing something complicated in my chest. Adrian Moretti had started as my savior, become my friend, and was now something I was afraid to name. Because naming it would make it real, and making it real would mean facing the fact that I was developing feelings for a man whose world was so different from mine that it might as well be another planet. But as I turned off the lights and climbed into my new bed, I couldn't help smiling. Whatever this was between us, whatever it was becoming, it felt right. For the first time since my parents died, I felt like I wasn't facing life alone. And that, I realized, was a gift more precious than any penthouse apartment or security detail. Adrian Moretti had given me back something I thought I'd lost forever, the ability to trust again. Spring arrived in Chicago with its usual dramatic flair. One day gray and cold, the next suddenly green and alive. It had been 3 months since that night at Le Sereno, and my life had transformed in ways I was still struggling to comprehend. I woke up each morning in my apartment without fear. I went to work and actually enjoyed teaching again. I'd even started seeing a therapist, something Adrian had quietly arranged through his insurance connections, though I paid for it myself because I needed that independence. But the biggest change was Adrian himself. What had started as occasional check-ins had evolved into a genuine friendship, and if I was being honest with myself, something more. He came by my apartment once or twice a week, always calling first, always bringing something, coffee, dinner, books he thought I'd enjoy. We'd talk for hours, about everything from philosophy to the absurdities of second graders, to his complicated relationship with his family's business. I'm trying to shift things, he told me one evening, as we sat on my small balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Move more of our operations into legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, import and export that doesn't involve anything questionable. But it's slow. There are expectations, traditions, people who resist change. It sounds exhausting, I observed. It is, but it's necessary. I don't want to be the man my grandfather was, or even the man my father was. I want to build something that doesn't require looking over my shoulder constantly. Is that possible? In your world? He smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. I don't know, but I'm going to try. Maybe having a reason to try helps. The way he looked at me when he said it made my breath catch. We'd been dancing around this thing between us for months, never quite acknowledging it, never quite looking away from it either. Adrian, I started, but he shook his head. You don't have to say anything, Elena. I know this is complicated. I know you're still healing, still figuring out who you are outside of what happened with Darren. I don't want to rush you or push you into something you're not ready for. But what if... I hesitated, gathering my courage. What if I think I might be ready? Not for anything serious or fast, but just... ready to see where this goes? His expression transformed. Hope, joy, and something deeper flickered across his face. Then we take it slow. We keep doing exactly what we're doing. We see each other, we talk, we let this develop naturally. No pressure, no expectations. Just us. Just us, I echoed, and for the first time in my adult life, that phrase didn't feel suffocating. It felt like freedom. Our relationship evolved so gradually that I couldn't pinpoint exactly when friendship shifted into something more. There was the first time he held my hand while we walked through Grant Park, his fingers warm and strong around mine. The evening he stayed late, and we fell asleep on my couch watching a movie, waking up tangled together in a way that felt both natural and profound. The morning I woke to find a text from him that simply said, "Thinking of you," and realized I'd been thinking of him too, had been thinking of him for weeks. But we kept our promise to go slow. No rushing into anything physical beyond hand-holding and the occasional embrace. We were building something different, something based on trust and genuine connection rather than need or desperation. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. My students noticed the change in me. "Ms. Elena, you smile more now," little Emma announced one day during reading time. "You look happy." "I am happy," I told her, surprised to realize it was true. "That's good," she said seriously. "When teachers are happy, the whole class is happier. Out of the mouths of babes, as my mother used to say." Then, one Friday evening in late May, everything changed. I was at home, grading papers and listening to music, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Elena." It was Adrian, and his voice was wrong, tight, controlled, dangerous. "Are you at home?" "Yes, I'm fine. What's wrong?" "I need you to listen carefully. Marcus is on his way to you right now. When he arrives, you're going to go with him. Don't pack anything, don't ask questions, just go." My heart hammered. "Adrian, you're scaring me." "I know, and I'm sorry. But Darren's been arrested. He attacked another woman, a colleague from his firm. She's in the hospital, and when the police searched his apartment, they found photos of you, printouts of your schedule, plans." His voice hardened. "He wasn't done, Elena. He was waiting, planning. The police want to question you as part of their investigation, and I want you somewhere safe before that happens." I felt sick. All these months of peace, and Darren had been out there, stalking me, planning something. Oh God. "You're safe. You've been safe because we've been watching, because I made sure of it. But now it's official. Now the police are involved, and it's going to get complicated. I need you somewhere he can't find you, somewhere the press can't find you if this becomes public." "Where?" "I have a house upstate. Secure, private. You'll stay there until we know it's safe. A few days, maybe a week. Can you do that?" I looked around my apartment, the home I'd built, the life I'd reclaimed. The thought of leaving it, even temporarily, made me want to cry. But the thought of Darren planning to hurt me, of him out there with photos and schedules and God knew what else, made the decision easy. "Yes, I can do that." "Good girl. Marcus will be there in 10 minutes. Elena? His voice softened. I'm coming with you. You won't be alone. I promise. True to his word, Adrian met us at his house. A beautiful, sprawling property surrounded by woods, with high fences and security that made my apartment building look like a toy. It was private, isolated, and under any other circumstances, would have been peaceful. That first night, I couldn't stop shaking. The reality of what could have happened, what Darren had been planning, crashed over me in waves. Adrian found me on the back deck, staring into the darkness, tears streaming down my face. Hey, he said softly, sitting beside me. Talk to me. I thought I was free. I thought it was over. But all this time he was out there, watching me, planning to. I couldn't finish the sentence. But he didn't. He won't. He's going to prison, Elena. The woman he attacked, she survived, she's pressing charges, and with the evidence they found, he's done. His legal career is over. His freedom is over. You won. Do you understand? You survived, and now you're free. Actually, truly free. I turned to him, and in the moonlight, I could see the intensity in his eyes. This man, this complicated, dangerous, unexpectedly gentle man, had saved me. Not just that night in the restaurant, but in all the days since. He'd given me space to heal, time to find myself, protection when I needed it, and friendship when I craved it. I don't know how to thank you, I whispered. You don't thank someone for caring about them, Adrian replied. That's not how this works. How does it work? He reached up and gently wiped away my tears. You care back, and you let yourself be happy. That's all I want, Elena. Your happiness. With or without me, though I'll be honest, I'm hoping for the with option. I laughed, despite everything, despite the fear and trauma and uncertainty. I want the with option too. Yeah? The hope in his voice was heartbreaking. Yeah. I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. You saved me, Adrian. Not just from Darren, but from myself. You showed me that I deserved better, that I could have better. You never pushed, never demanded, never made me feel like I owed you anything. Do you know how rare that is? You don't owe me anything now either, he said firmly. I need you to know that. If we do this, if we try this thing between us, it's because we both want it. Not because of gratitude or obligation, but because we choose each other. Can you do that? Can you separate what I did for you from who I am to you? I thought about his question seriously. Could I? Was what I felt for Adrian genuine? Or was it just a trauma response, gratitude masquerading as affection? But then I thought about our conversations, the way he made me laugh, the comfort I felt in his presence. I thought about how I looked forward to his texts, how my heart jumped when he called, how safe I felt not because of his power, but because of his consistency, his kindness, his genuine care. Yes, I said finally. I can. Because what I feel for you isn't about what you did for me that night. It's about who you've been to me every day since. You're my friend, Adrian. The best friend I've had in years. And you're also more than that. He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath. Elena, I need to be honest with you about something. My world, my life. It's not simple. There are dangers, complications, things I can't always protect you from. If we do this, if we're together, you need to know what you're walking into. I know who you are, I said. Maybe not all the details, but I know enough. And I'm not naive enough to think it will be easy. But Adrian, nothing worth having ever is. He pulled me closer, wrapping his arms around me in an embrace that felt like coming home. We sat like that for a long time, under the stars, holding each other while the night sounds of the forest surrounded us. "We'll figure it out," he murmured into my hair. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. No more shadows, no more fear. Just forward, into whatever this becomes." "Together," I echoed, and felt something in my chest settle. Peace. That's what it was. After months of chaos and uncertainty, I'd found peace in the arms of the most unlikely person imaginable. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd escaped one dangerous man only to fall for another. But Adrian Moretti was dangerous in a different way. He was dangerous because he made me want things I'd stopped believing in. Love, partnership, a future that didn't revolve around fear. As we sat there in the moonlight, I realized that trauma and healing aren't linear. You don't just survive something awful and then move on. You carry it with you, but you also get to choose who helps you carry it. And I'd chosen Adrian, just as he'd chosen me. Whatever came next, whatever challenges we'd face, I knew we'd face them together, and for now, that was enough. The week at Adrian's upstate house passed in a strange bubble of time. The police came to take my statement, detailing every threat Darren had made, every instance of abuse I could remember. It was painful, dragging up memories I'd tried to bury, but Adrian sat beside me through all of it, his presence a steady anchor. The detective handling the case, a woman named Rodriguez, was kind but direct. "Ms. Elena, I want you to understand something. With the evidence we found, combined with your testimony and the victim from this recent attack, Darren Mitchell is going away for a long time. Multiple charges: assault, stalking, violation of protective measures. His lawyer friends can't save him this time." "What about the woman he hurt?" I asked. "She's recovering. Physically, she'll be okay. Emotionally." Detective Rodriguez sighed. "That takes longer, as you know. But she's brave. She's pressing charges, cooperating fully." She said knowing there was another victim made her feel less alone. After the detective left, I sat on the back deck, processing. Another woman had been hurt because I'd gotten away. The guilt of that was crushing. "Stop," Adrian said, sitting beside me. He'd learned to read my expressions over these months. "I know what you're thinking, and you need to stop. You are not responsible for what Darren did to that woman. He is. His choices, his violence, his sickness. That's on him, not you." "But if I'd reported him earlier..." "He would have talked his way out of it," Adrian interrupted. "You know he would have. He had connections, money, a clean record. They would have dismissed it as a relationship dispute. Don't do this to yourself, Elena. Don't let him take anything else from you." I knew he was right, but knowing and feeling are different things. It would take time to fully believe it. That night, unable to sleep, I found Adrian in his study, working on something on his laptop. He looked up when I appeared in the doorway, his expression immediately concerned. "Can't sleep." "Too much in my head. Can I stay with you for a while?" "Always." He closed the laptop and patted the couch beside him. I curled up next to him, and he wrapped an arm around me, pulling me close. We sat like that in comfortable silence, and gradually I felt my racing thoughts begin to slow. "Tell me something good," I requested, "something that has nothing to do with any of this." Adrian thought for a moment. "My sister is getting married in September. She's been planning this wedding for 2 years, and she's driving everyone crazy with the details. Last week, she called me in a panic because the florist mixed up her order and sent peonies instead of roses. I had to spend 20 minutes calming her down and reminding her that flowers are flowers." I smiled. "I didn't know you had a sister." "Isabella. She's 5 years younger than me, works as a pediatric surgeon, and has absolutely no idea what I really do for a living. She thinks I'm a boring real estate developer who owns restaurants. She doesn't know. I've kept her separate from the family business since she was young. Sent her to different schools, made sure she had a normal life. She's the one good thing our family produced, and I wasn't about to let her get dragged into the darkness. I heard the love in his voice, the protectiveness. She sounds wonderful. She is. You'll meet her someday if you want. Though I warn you, she'll ask a million questions and probably plan our entire future within 5 minutes of meeting you. The casual way he mentioned our future made my heart skip. We'd been dancing around this thing between us, but he just acknowledged it so simply, like it was a given, like we had a future together. I'd like to meet her, I said softly. Good, because I'm terrible at family events alone, and I could use the moral support. We talked for hours that night, about his family, my memories of my parents, our childhoods, our dreams. It was the kind of conversation that strips away pretense and leaves you bare, honest, connected in ways that go beyond the surface. At some point, I must have fallen asleep, because I woke up in Adrian's bed, fully clothed, tucked carefully under the covers, with a note on the nightstand. You fell asleep on the couch. Didn't want to wake you, but couldn't let you stay there all night. I'm downstairs if you need me. A. The gesture was so typically Adrian, considerate, respectful, caring. I lay there for a moment looking around his bedroom. It was masculine but comfortable, with books on the nightstand and photos on the dresser. I got up and looked at them. A younger Adrian with an elderly couple who must have been his grandparents. Him with a beautiful dark-haired woman who had his smile, Isabella presumably. A few others I didn't recognize. No photos of his ex-wife, I noticed. Whatever that relationship had been, he'd left it firmly in the past. I found him in the kitchen, making coffee and eggs. "Good morning," he said, smiling when he saw me. "I hope you don't mind that I moved you. You looked so uncomfortable on the couch." "I don't mind. Thank you for being a gentleman. Always." He poured me coffee, remembered without asking that I took it with cream and 1 sugar. "Detective Rodriguez called this morning. They formally charged Darren. His bail hearing is this afternoon, but she doesn't think he'll get bail given the severity of the charges and the flight risk." Relief washed over me. "So it's really over?" "It's really over. You can go home, back to your life, back to your students. He can't touch you anymore. Home, my apartment, my classroom, my routine. I'd been here less than a week, but somehow it felt like longer. This place, with Adrian, had become its own kind of sanctuary. "When will you go back to the city?" I asked. "Whenever you're ready. I've been working remotely, so there's no rush. Unless you need space? Need to process all of this alone?" Did I? A week ago, I would have said yes. I'd been so focused on rebuilding my independence, on proving I could stand on my own. But I was learning that independence and connection weren't mutually exclusive. I could be strong and still want someone beside me. I could stand on my own and still choose to lean on someone when I needed to. "I don't need space," I said. "But I think I'm ready to go home. Back to normal life, whatever that looks like now." We drove back to Chicago that afternoon, the city skyline appearing on the horizon like an old friend. Marcus dropped us at my apartment building, and Adrian walked me up, carrying the small bag I'd packed. "I should let you settle in," he said at my door, but I could hear the reluctance in his voice. "Stay," I said impulsively. "For dinner. We can order in, watch a movie, just be normal for an evening." His smile was worth the risk of asking. "I'd like that." We ordered Thai food again. It had become our thing, apparently, and settled on the couch with a movie neither of us really paid attention to. Instead, we talked, laughed, and somewhere between the main course and dessert, Adrian took my hand. Elena, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. I turned to face him fully, my heart suddenly racing. These past months with you have been unexpected. I didn't plan to feel this way, didn't think I was capable of it anymore. But you've reminded me that there's more to life than business and obligations and maintaining power. You've made me want things I stopped believing in, a real relationship, partnership, maybe even. He paused, looking almost vulnerable. Maybe even love. Tears pricked my eyes. Adrian, I'm not asking you to say it back, he continued quickly. I know you're still healing, still figuring things out. I just needed you to know where I stand, what this means to me. You're not just someone I helped, Elena. You're someone I want in my life, in every way that matters. If you'll have me. I thought about all the ways I could respond, all the logical reasons to move slowly, to be cautious. But then I thought about who Adrian had been to me from the very beginning. Not my savior, though he'd saved me, but my friend, my partner, my unexpected anchor in a storm I'd been drowning in. I'm falling for you, I said, the words feeling both terrifying and freeing. I tried not to, tried to keep things separate, but I can't. You're everything I didn't know I needed, Adrian. You're safe and exciting and challenging and comfortable all at once. And I don't know what the future looks like, but I know I want you in it. He cupped my face in his hands, his touch gentle. Can I kiss you? I've been waiting for you to ask. The kiss was soft, careful, full of promise rather than demand. It tasted like possibility, like second chances, like everything that had gone wrong somehow leading to this one perfect moment. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling. Well, Adrian said, his voice slightly breathless. That was worth the wait. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. What happens now? Now we figure it out together. No rushing, no pressure. We date like normal people, or as normal as we can be, given who I am. We see where this goes. And whenever you need space or time or just to slow down, you tell me. Deal? Deal. He stayed that night, sleeping on my couch despite my half-hearted protests that he could take the bed. But when I woke in the middle of the night from a nightmare, Darren, his threats, the fear, Adrian was there within seconds, holding me until the shaking stopped. I've got you, he murmured. You're safe. He can't hurt you anymore. And for the first time, I truly believed it. The months that followed weren't always easy. I had moments of panic, times when intimacy felt frightening, days when the trauma resurfaced and threatened to pull me under. But Adrian was patient, never pushing, always there when I needed him and giving me space when I didn't. We built something real, something based on trust and genuine affection rather than need or crisis. He met my colleagues at a school fundraiser and charmed them all. I met Isabella, who indeed asked a million questions and started planning our wedding before our entrees arrived at dinner. We navigated the complexities of his world, the family obligations, the business decisions, the occasional reminder that Adrian Moretti was not just the man who brought me coffee and made me laugh, but someone powerful and in certain circles feared. But he was also the man who showed up to my classroom's holiday party dressed as Santa Claus because I mentioned we couldn't find anyone. The man who learned to make my favorite pasta dish from scratch because he knew I missed my mother's cooking. The man who, on the anniversary of that night at Le Sereno, took me back to the restaurant and proposed at the same table where we'd first met. I know it hasn't been that long, he said, the ring box open in his hand. And I know you might want more time. But Elena, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're it for me. The person who made me believe in goodness again, who reminded me that power without compassion is worthless. I love you. Will you marry me? Through happy tears, I said yes. Not because he'd saved me from Darren, though he had, Not because I felt obligated or grateful, though I was both, but because Adrian Moretti had become my partner, my best friend, my unexpected love story in the middle of what should have been my darkest chapter. Darren Mitchell was sentenced to 12 years in prison. The trial was difficult. I had to testify, had to relive everything. But with Adrian beside me and Detective Rodriguez's support, I got through it. The woman Darren had attacked was there too, and afterward, we spoke briefly. "Thank you," she said, "for being brave enough to come forward. I know it wasn't easy." "Thank you," I replied, "for pressing charges, for making sure he couldn't do this to anyone else." Now, we weren't friends. The circumstances were too awful for that. But we understood each other. We were survivors, moving forward into lives that Darren Mitchell no longer controlled. On a sunny afternoon in September, I stood in a garden surrounded by flowers and friends, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of peonies. Isabella's flower mix-up had actually been perfect. Adrian stood at the end of the aisle in a black suit, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. As I walked toward him, I thought about that night at La Sereno, how terrified I'd been, how hopeless everything had seemed. I thought about the man who'd overheard a threat and decided to act, who'd given me safety when I needed it most, who'd become so much more than my protector. "Hi," Adrian said when I reached him, his voice full of emotion. "Hi," I replied, smiling through happy tears. The ceremony was beautiful, the vows heartfelt. But what I remember most was the moment after, when Adrian pulled me close and whispered, "Thank you for giving me a reason to be better. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself," I whispered back. "Thank you for reminding me what love should look like." And as we walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, I realized that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us exactly where we need to be. Darren's threats had brought me to that restaurant. Fear had kept me in that seat. But courage, my courage, and Adrian's intervention, had started something neither of us expected. Love doesn't always arrive the way we think it will. Sometimes it comes in the middle of trauma, wearing an expensive suit and speaking with quiet authority. Sometimes it comes from the most unlikely person, at the most impossible time, changing everything we thought we knew about ourselves and what we deserved. Adrian Moretti had saved me that night. Yes. But more than that, he'd shown me I was worth saving. And in learning to love him, I'd learned to love myself again too. That's the real happy ending. Not that I found someone powerful to protect me, but that I found someone who helped me remember my own power. Not that he rescued me, but that he gave me the space and support to rescue myself. And together, we built something beautiful from the ashes of what should have destroyed me. That's not just survival. That's victory.